Hello, my name is Jason Johnson, and thank you for watching this video. I hope you find all my videos helpful, and thank you for subscribing to my channel and sharing my videos with others. If you have any questions or feedback, you can leave a comment below, and I'll try to get back with you as soon as possible. Okay, this video covers the NETACAD IT Essentials Chapter 9, Laptops and Mobile Devices. And we are going to be looking at some different things with laptops and mobile devices. The first thing we're going to look at is the sections and objectives here on this PowerPoint. And we're going to be looking at laptop components, laptop configuration, laptop hardware component and installation and configuration, mobile device hardware, and then common preventative maintenance techniques for laptops and mobile devices, and then some basic troubleshooting process for laptop and mobile devices. So let's take a look here at the first slide at laptop components. Now, laptop components are going to be a little bit different from desktop components, but they're going to be similar. So when you're looking at the outside of a laptop, you're going to see some of the same things or same type of ports and things like that you see on a desktop, but they're either going to be smaller or they're going to be compacted down into a smaller space. So what the photo you're looking at there is the back of an older laptop, because they still have the PS2 connections. If you look down here on the let me get my marker here. You have the old mouse and keyboard right there. Mouse and keyboard. And those were color-coded, and those are the older devices there. You still have you do have DVI on here, and you have RGB, but you have your COM port, and you still have your LPT port, that you would connect in your printers and things like that, and you have 4 USBs. You have your audio coming in here, and you have your cards that you can eject, and then your Cat5 and your RJ11, which was the old modem. So most laptops that you see today do not have most of this. You're going to see, at the most, you're going to see a Cat45. Let me just erase here. You're going to see a Cat45 for your network. You're going to see a power supply. You're going to see your fan. You're very rarely going to see these PC MCIA cards anymore. You're going to see something more maybe like a CF card reader. You're not going to have, you might have RGB off the side of it, but most of the higher end laptops are coming with DVI or HDMI. You might have a DVI out of the side, but most of them are coming with HDMI on there. And then you'll have your sound ports. You'll have USBs, but you will not have these older PS2s. You won't have these other ports as well on there. They just don't come anymore. But when we're looking at, you may still see those. You may still be working with laptops that have those on there. You might be working with a laptop that's 10 or 15 years old. It does happen. When I've done some consulting in the past, I was working at a company, and this was about 10 years ago. But dot matrix printers. This was about 2007, right around 2004 to 2007, around that time frame. And the company I was doing some work for, though, they were still using a dot matrix printer, because the system, they had a DOS machine set up, and that's all it ran was DOS. It had a label printing program on there for their to print labels to put on their packages that they sent out, and it had been working for them since the early 90s, I believe, is when they set it up, and so they didn't see any need to change it. They were still using the dot matrix printer. It worked for them, and so they weren't updating it, and so I had to kind of dig back into my history and learn how to work on dot matrix printers again and work on DOS machines. And so you may come across laptops where you have to still deal with some of these ports and some of these parts that go on here. So what we're going to do is when you look at those, you just have to kind of assess what you're working with, how old the device is, and some of the components on there. But you're going to have some common input devices. Your LED lights are going to be common on most laptops. Most laptops are going to have they're going to have a keyboard. They're going to have some type of microphone and a web camera, usually at the top of the, we'll just, here, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next screen here so you can see here. But you'll have a webcam, you'll have Wi-Fi, you'll have some of them have docking stations. You can plug those onto some type of docking station. More of the business laptops have those on there. And when you're looking at, most of your laptops will have up here somewhere, they'll have this is with the case off, that's why it looks a little bit strange there, but you'll have on the laptop, usually in the center right about here, you'll see a little camera, and there'll be a little dot for microphones, for the microphone to pick up. That's usually what you're going to see on most laptops on there. You could also see the different types of displays that come with laptops. You have LCD, LED, and OLED. And the LCD, there's two types of those. You have twisted pneumatic, TN, and then plane switching and in-plane switching, or IPS. TN offers high brightness, but it uses less power. It's inexpensive, so you're going to see those in lower-end laptops. IPS is better color reproduction and better viewing angles, but it's a little bit more expensive to manufacture, so you're going to see those on maybe higher-end laptops. With LEDs, they use less power and have a longer lifespan. And then you also have the OLED, and those are commonly used for mobile devices and digital cameras. If you have a digital camera, you're going to see a little screen on the back, maybe like a little 3-inch or a 5-inch screen, and that's usually what you'll see with the OLED there. You also have backlights and inverters. The LCD is a cold cathode fluorescent lamp, or CCFL, and inverter, and an LED is based backlights on some of those, so they'll do some backlighting with the LEDs. On there. So what you'll want to do is, I'm not really going in depth in this PowerPoint here with it, but in the course material, when you take the NETACAD IT Essentials course, you're going to get more in depth into the different lighting on there. You're also going to have, in most laptops, you're going to have some type of Wi-Fi antenna. You're not going to see an antenna sticking out of the laptop, but it's going to be internal. Those are typically located above the screen because you want to get that as high as possible. So they have that running somewhere in there. And it'll be running in, it'll be connected in, it'll be running up maybe around for the Wi-Fi network. It connects to a wireless card that's in the device, and of course the webcam and the microphone's built in. To most laptops have those built in. Now let's look at the laptop configuration. When you're working with the operating system on there, it's going to be very similar to the BIOS settings of a desktop computer, but there's going to be some things that are a little bit different. You're just going to have some things that are a little bit different. Maybe like the power standards that are on there, the power management. You're going to have those are going to be a little bit different on a laptop BIOS versus a desktop. And you may have some different security. They may build some different types of security features in because they know there's a higher potential risk of a laptop being stolen. But the power management, you can go in and configure your ACPI standards. It creates the power management creates that bridge between the hardware and the software, or the operating system. It provides power management schemes for better performance. One of the things that you do with the laptop is you need to the performance of the laptop goes up and down based upon the battery life. So what most laptop operating systems, and the BIOS on most of them have this built in as well, is it will step up and step down the processor speed, and which uses more or less power based upon the current settings of the computer. So for example, if the laptop. So if the laptop's plugged in, it's going to go ahead and boost the speed of that processor and boost it up. If it's not plugged in and maybe lower on power, and there's different steps, so if you get down to like 30% or 30%, it may even slow the processor down even more. So that can be managed in the BIOS. It's also managed in the operating system, but it can be managed in the BIOS as well. You can also manage some other settings like your sleep or hibernation or your shutdown, things like that, which is also managed in the operating system, but you can manage it in the BIOS. Now, when you configure wireless, this is on into the operating system, and you can have some different types of wireless connections. You can have either Bluetooth, cell, or Wi-Fi, depending upon the device or your laptop. Most of the newer laptops, and I'm talking this is April of 2017, do come with some type of Bluetooth connection and Wi-Fi, or a combination of both. Not all of them come with cellular technology, and I apologize, I always have trouble saying cellular, so I'm just going to say cell technology. So your cell wireless access or your cell WAN can be used for tethering. You can sometimes tether your cell phone and use Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, or maybe even a USB cable, to then have your laptop connect through a cell phone. But there are also some mobile devices that you can put cell technology or cell into that, much like a mobile phone or a smartphone. You can also build those into a laptop as well, or sometimes even with a card, and have those activated on there. So let's with Wi-Fi on older laptops, you had mini PCI that was 124 pins. You had the 802.11.A, .B, and or 11A, 11B, and 11G. You usually do not see those anymore, but you could be working with the laptop that has those. The mini PCIe is the most common. Those are 54 pins. Those are all 802.11 standards, which means they cover the A, B, and G, and then the N as well. And then the newer PCI Express Micro, those are half the size of the mini PCIe, and those also cover the 802.11 standards, and that's a mini PCIe there. Has the same connection ports, but it's half the size, so it's going to put off less heat. It's going to take less power to run, and so with just depending upon which card you have in there, if you have the older card and it doesn't support the standards, most cards you're going to see on the laptop, or you're going to need to go into the device and find out which standards you have on there, whether it's A, B, or G, or which an N standard or the newer AC standards. But you're going to need to make sure that that wireless card or that wireless access matches the availability of your wireless access point. Now, laptop hardware and component installation and configuration is a little bit more difficult. I don't say it's impossible. I mean, it's not that much more difficult than a desktop. What makes it a little bit harder to work with the laptop is the smaller size, and then how the components are kind of built in. The laptops are built to be mobile, and so they build them to stay together, so it's harder to sometimes to get cases off. What I have found in my career, whenever I'm working on a laptop, it's usually best to consult a manufacturing website to see how to take the laptop apart. Otherwise, you're going to break pins off. You're going to end up damaging the component as you try to take it apart, and you may miss screws here and there. And so, what I usually do is consult the manufacturer website, see how to uninstall everything or take it apart, and then also make sure that you put all your pieces together. It's just smaller pieces, smaller parts, and so a little bit more difficult to work with. When you're dealing with expansion cards, we do not see these a lot anymore, the PCI MCA cards that slide in, but you can also you can add flash drives or flash memory into some of the newer computers. You can put an SSD drive in, which it significantly increases the speed of the laptop. You can also use SD cards, SDHC cards. I use on I have a I think it's a 128 gig USB drive that I keep in the side. I just leave it plugged in all the time, and that's where I drop off some of my memory that so I don't have it put onto the SSD drive. It's when I run my VirtualBox, and so I put my ISO files for the operating systems over on that USB drive. You can also have smart card readers built in to mobile devices, and so those can require a physical connection to the card. And I apologize, the image there, but you also works on a radio frequency for a smart card reader. Those can be built in. You can have you can also have where they read thumbprints or read your fingerprints. Those can be built in. And then when you're talking about your memory, the memory is called SODIMM, or SODIMM. SODIMM is how I pronounce it. So when you're looking for memory, it is different than regular desktop memory because it is in a more compact shape. And so 32-bit is a 72 pin and 100 pin, and the newer 64-bit is either 144, 200 pin, or 204 pin. And so what you'll have to do is make sure that you're looking at the motherboard in that laptop to make sure that you're matching up the proper memory for that, and make sure that that's going to fit if you're going to do any type of upgrades on that laptop. So when you're replacing hardware devices in a laptop, one of the things that usually, or in my experience, that has given out first on laptops is the battery. The batteries usually go first because that's what gets, it gets charged, it gets depleted, it gets charged, it gets depleted. And so replacing hardware device on that, you have to look at the overview of the hardware replacement. You have customer replaceable units, or CRUs. Those are things that the customer can replace. That's usually like the battery can be replaced by the customer. The memory can be replaced by the customer. The motherboard is usually not replaced by the customer. That's usually what we call a field replaceable unit, where somebody can fix it for you, but it's usually not the customer. Maybe you take it to a shop, or you can send it in to the manufacturer or someone else to repair it. Most batteries are CRU. And a sign that a battery might need to be replaced is it doesn't hold a charge. It starts overheating or leaking. I've not seen so much the overheating and the leaking as I have seen it just does not hold a charge. When I'm supporting a user and they start telling me that their laptop, it just won't stay charged up. Or another comment that you'll hear is when I unplug it, it just dies on me. Well, that lets you know that the battery's not holding a charge. And so you can still use a laptop without the battery. You just have to keep the power plugged in, and it functions more like a desktop at that point. And I've had laptops where we've done that. And I've had a laptop where I've replaced the battery 3 different times. I've had 3 separate batteries on it over a span of about 6 or 7 years, just because of the use I had on it. And it was an older laptop, and the battery technology wasn't as good back then. You can also replace the keyboards and the touchpads and the screens on laptops, but those usually are field replaceable units. Those are not replaced by the customer directly. Internal storage drives and optical drives, you can replace those. Wireless cards, speakers, CPUs, motherboards, plastic frames, that can all be replaced on laptops, but it's just not as common for the customer to do that. So so that's something that you could do as a technician, either out in the field or out in the field. That's those things that you could replace on there. All right, well, we're going to shift gears here just a little bit for the end part of this video, and we're going to look at mobile device hardware. Now, mobile device hardware is typically, or usually, whichever word you want to accept there, is not done by the customer. It is done usually at a repair shop. You usually take it in someplace, either to the Verizon store, the Sprint store, the Apple store, and you have it repaired there. There are the mobile device parts. When you think about the laptop being a little bit more difficult because of the smaller size, well, a mobile device is even smaller yet. And so a lot of those components are built in and not meant to be replaced by the customer at all. In fact, most manufacturers would rather the customer not even open it up, other than maybe to replace the battery. That's usually just about what the customer replaces, is a battery, maybe the memory card in a mobile device, and that's just about it. They will make them non-upgradable hardware, and a lot of it, as you see here, most of it's built in and hardwired on. It's soldered onto the board, so you can't replace the camera. It's not easily replaceable on there. The touch screens on these, you can replace touch screens on mobile devices, but they do come in, and I want to talk about first, they do come in 2 different types. You have that recognizes 2 or more points, and that's the connectivity. And I'm going to hold on. I'm going to get the exact terminology here. Hold on. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, I'm not going to put up the explanation on here. I was going to throw a little slide up here. What I may do when I edit the video is throw something on there. But you have 2 different types of touch screens. You have capacitive and resistive. Capacitive, it relies on the electrical properties of the human body. So it detects when it has some type of human contact with it. So your body transmits a little bit of an electrical charge to the screen, and so it can tell where you are touching on the screen. So just very light touches of your finger can be felt by the device. So if you put 2 fingers down and you do the pinching movement, that lets it know where your 2 points of contact were, and you can pinch it together. You generally cannot use mechanical styluses or gloved hands. However, there are gloves out there that transmit the capacitive touch from your body. So and I've seen crazy things where people just cut the fingers out of their gloves or something like that so they can still touch their screen. Or there are some styluses that do transmit the capacitation or the capacity through the stylus so that the screen picks it up as well. And then you also have resistive. Resistive does not rely on electrical. It's more, you'll see screens like that you have to have some type of stylus, because it is basically your touch. So the pressure that you put down, it picks up on pressure. Years ago, I had a BlackBerry device, and you had to use a stylus on the screen because it was a resistive. So those are the 2 different types, capacitive and resistive. You also have, in mobile devices, you have SSD drives, or the solid state drives. Now, the advantage of those are they're power efficient. They do not take a lot of power. There's no moving parts with them, so you can move your mobile device around. They're reliable. They're compact. They're high performance, and there's no noise to them. And so that's the solid state drives that are used in most mobile devices these days. Now, the connection types that you're going to see on mobile devices is you're going to have micro and mini USB on devices, whether it's either micro or mini devices. The Apple products have changed those, so if you're an Apple product user, you know that those have changed recently. And again, this is 2017, and you know those have changed, and those are proprietary vendor ports now on the Apple devices. You can also have wireless connections on mobile devices, or mobile devices do have wireless connections. And the three main types that you have are NFC, or near field communication, infrared, or Bluetooth. Bluetooth would be a connection like you would make with your car. So like when I go to my car, I have my Bluetooth turned on, and so my car recognizes my phone. They communicate with each other, and so I can either play music through there, I can take telephone calls, things like that. A near-field communication would be something like if you were going to use Samsung Pay or Apple Pay, and then the device would communicate with another device, and it's usually within a foot or two of each other, really close, where Bluetooth has a little bit farther range, and infrared is going to be site to site, so you can also transmit. Had BlackBerry, again, referring back to the BlackBerry, it had infrared on it. I could communicate with other infrared BlackBerry devices by pointing them at each other. You could share contact information and things like that. Now, the accessories that usually come with mobile devices, external batteries. You can plug a battery in to charge. Some people carry if they wear their battery out on their mobile device a lot, they run it down a lot, they will carry a mobile chargings. It's a portable battery that you can just plug in. You charge it up externally, and then just plug it in through one of the ports, and it will give your phone more life. There's docking stations. There's wireless portable chargers or wireless chargers. I know with my Samsung phone, I've got a wireless charger, or I don't have to plug it in. I just lay the phone on top of the device and it starts charging, which is a wonderful device. You have earbuds, headsets, speakers that go with them. There's credit card readers that you can plug into phones. There's a few different companies out there that do that, where you can accept credit card payments through your mobile device. So if you're a business operator and you're mobile, you can accept payments on that. Some other mobile devices that we can take a look at real quickly here. You have wearable devices. You have things such as like the Fitbit. You have the Apple Watch. Those are the smart watches, maybe an Apple Watch or a Fitbit. Smart headsets. I've got where you can have a headset that maybe has some computing built into it. You also have specialty devices like GPS devices. I've been using GPS for a long time. I carry one in my car in case I need it. Smart cameras that go on cars that record activity, and then they can do things such as if there was a sudden jolt, or if there was a sudden acceleration or deceleration, the camera will record the last 5-10 minutes or something like that, and then even some of them will even transmit that wirelessly or through cell technology up to a server somewhere. And then you also have electronic readers. That's where I live. The electric company does not come up to the house anymore. They can just drive past the house real slowly, and the electrical reader in the vehicle reads the electric meter on the house, and then they can read wirelessly how much electricity I've used over the last month. So what we have looked at here is the different types of devices. We're going to switch gears here a little bit and talk about preventative maintenance techniques for laptops and devices. And just as a note of time here, I did go a little bit longer with this video, but I wanted to keep Chapter 9 all together because it was hard to break the content up. But let's look at common preventative maintenance techniques. Some of the things that you want to make sure of with mobile devices, as dirt and contamination happens a lot. I've taken a laptop apart and it was just filled with cat hair and all kinds of other nasty stuff, and the keyboard wasn't working anymore, and it was just filled with cat hair. Somebody had their cat laid on the keyboard a lot, and it just shed inside the keyboard, and so it took a lot to clean that. You have spills. People spill their coffee, their soda, because they're mobile devices. You have them on your lap. They're called laptops for a reason, because you keep them on your lap. And so that's one of the things, spills. You have drops a lot. I've seen a lot of different drops where someone will drop their laptop and it'll crack a screen. Recently, I had a user that dropped a laptop and it landed on its side, and the USB, they had a USB receiver for their mouse on the side, and it jammed the USB all the way inside the laptop. It boasted the port off and just pushed it all the way inside the laptop. So we had to get a pair of pliers and pull it back out and then repair that port. Excessive heat and cold. When I was in the Marine Corps and we were sending units over to Desert Storm, we had mobile computing back then, and it was the sand, the dust, the heat would get to it. High humidity areas, if you're going into if you're in a high humidity area, or if you're going from a cold, let's say you've left your device out in your car. And it was freezing, or it was excessively cold, and then you bring it inside, you're going to get condensation on that device. So you want to be careful about turning those on until they've had a chance to properly dry out. So excessive moisture, heat and cold. When you clean devices, you want to refer to the manufacturer's recommendations on cleaning. You want to use the proper cleaning materials, because if you use harsh cleaning material or harsh cleaning solvents, or some type of, if you use let's say a paper towel on a screen, it's going to scratch it. So you want to use properly approved towels on screens, and then also be careful with cleaning solvents. You never want to spray directly onto a device. And same with mobile devices. You can clean those. You can get them cleaned up. You want to back up the data before you do any type of work on there. Update the system and applications as well. With the laptop, you're going to do that with your operating system. But with the mobile devices, you're going to want to make sure that it's updated with the cell carrier, and you also want to make sure that it's updated with the manufacturer, whether it's an Android or a BlackBerry or an Apple or a Windows operating system or a Windows phone. You want to make sure that those are properly updated as well. Now, when we look at basic troubleshooting on mobile devices and laptops, it's the same steps that we've already learned in previous chapters. The same thing here, we apply, we identify the problem, and I'm going to move through these really rapidly because we've covered these in previous chapters, but you identify the problem, you ask open-end questions, closed-end questions to find out when was the last time it booted. You try to find out, well, every time I unplug it, the laptop dies. Well, that lets you know that it may be a battery issue. I spilled soda on I spilled soda on it, it just stopped working. Well, that's a pretty good indication of what happened. You want to establish a theory or probable cause, test that theory, establish your plan of action, verify the functionality, implement preventative measures, don't spill coffee on your laptop again, and then document, and document your findings, your actions, and your outcomes. And then you can solve most things through those steps. So common problems and solutions for laptops and mobile devices, that you want to identify common problems and solutions. That we've already looked at common problems. Common solutions are where you go through that process and you say, don't leave your devices out in the cold. Don't, and if you bring them inside, let them set for a while before you turn those on. If you've dropped a mobile device in water, immediately turn it off. And then there's some people use rice. Just be careful about how you do that, because you can get the rice dust and other things down in the device. They sell special bags of contained rice. There's special bags to do that as well. But you want to get the device off as soon as possible, so that you can get it in some type of material or a container that's going to pull the moisture out of it. And I've seen devices that have been rescued that way. A lot of the mobile device, or say some of the mobile devices that are on the market today, are not waterproof, they're water resistant. For example, my Samsung is considered water resistant, so I could probably drop it in some water and pick it back up real quick and it'd still be okay. And so that's some of the things there. All right, so let's take a look real quick at the... we're going to wrap this up. So I've kept this under 30 minutes. I apologize for the extra time on this one, but it was just hard to break this chapter into two parts. So let's take a quick summary of this. We looked at laptop and mobile devices, that they are lightweight. They can operate on battery power, which makes them a convenience. However, that same convenience also brings some unique problems with those. So you can have drops, you can bring them into colder environments or harsh environments, things like that. Laptops use the same types of ports as desktop computers. Mobile devices can also use some of the same peripheral devices. Essential input devices such as a keyboard and trackpad are built into the laptop, but you can also connect external laptop or external keyboards and mice as well. The internal components of a laptop are typically smaller than a desktop component, because they are designed to fit into a small space and work more efficiently and use less power. So they're compact and lightweight. Some laptop feature function keys that can be pressed into a combination with the FN key. So you'll have the FN key that you use on the laptop to get some extra features out of there. You can also deal with docking stations with laptops so that you can have extra. You can plug them in to have plug them in so you can have 2 or 3 monitors maybe on there. Laptops and mobile devices most commonly feature either an LCD or an LED monitor or a touch screen. Backlights and inverters illuminate the laptop displays. The power settings of a laptop battery can be configured to ensure the power is used efficiently. They have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, infrared, just depending upon the device. And they can provide a number of expansion possibilities. You can increase memory, you can put more drive space in, depending upon the device. And then laptop components consist of CRU or FRU, depending on whether the customer can repair it or the field replaceable unit where a technician would repair that. And then laptop components should be cleaned regularly in order to extend the life of the laptop, as the same as with mobile devices. Okay, well that was a lot of information, and we covered in this Chapter 9, Laptops and Mobile Devices. I hope you found this video helpful, and thank you for subscribing to my channel. Thank you for sharing these videos. If you have any questions or comments, leave that information below or put it in the comments below, and I'll get back with you as soon as possible, and I hope you have a great day.